What's happening, everybody? Okay, so last few weeks been working on a new character, but I think this week I'd like to do some environment stuff. It's a specific need I have right now in the game itself, so I want to just start knocking out some environment pieces as needed. Just pulling some environment files here. Map, jammers. What's up, Ryan? How you doing? What would be production pipeline ZBrush Maya if I like to do character for game, model, rig, texture? Well, the pipeline for games, there's kind of a million ways to do it, right? So like, the main thing you'd want to focus on is, just getting your game such that, or getting your model such that, the first step is going to be like getting the high poly detail, making sure that you have, a model of decent size. Like this is the low poly, right, game asset. But the first version of that obviously is super high poly. Sculpt it all in ZBrush, do all the props, all the details, all the trinkets, what have you. And then in ZBrush or in Maya or some other package, you can do your retopology, and that's going to get you, that's where you come in and make sure you get the sort of 28,000 point version. So that is the low poly version of your mesh. Then you bake it, generate your textures for it, make sure there's no artifacts and that all of the high poly detail is being represented on the low poly geometry. And then and then you do your rigging in Maya, assign bones, skin weights, and then that's basically every step of the way. I'm not going to walk through all of that here, of course, because that's not what this channel is for. But that's a high-level overview of like what you need to be doing there. So basically, we have this back wall, and I want to kind of generate a few different variations on it. I'm pretty happy with those pillars actually, but you know, I'm gonna probably mix them up a little bit. Just like I just want to make you know, this is more of a block out for sort of the size of what that shape's gonna be, and I want to just kind of, you know, see if I can find this pillar. What's up, Nate? Yeah, actually it is. I'm still working on it, so like I've only here's my Gumroad. There's a free download for it there. What's up, Corey Gaze? How you doing? So yeah, and that's like my 1080 version. This is the 25. This is the 25. Sorry, 1440 version of it is what this is. So yeah, see if that helps, and then I'll be adding this one to that Gumroad. So I'll just like break it up to multiple files, and I'll do my ZBrush 4 R7 UI as well as my R8 UI with both resolutions. So that should help. Right now I'm just bringing in some pieces that are already in the world at the right size and scale. That'll just help me. Okay, so that is the right scale, which is of course a little bit lower. Doo-ba-doo-doo-ba-doo-doo-ba-doo. Basically what I want to do is I want to build a few different versions of just like something along those lines. I got a few concepts here, just like things I'd like to see. Obviously there's some like geometry issues here. We have some like incorrect faces and stuff like that. So I just want to like do some basic block modeling here with the ZModeler brush. This will kind of allow me to sort of start building out what I'm going to put in the environment. And then I can, once I have those blockout shapes, I can start lighting the map, and then actually adding detail to everything. So, what's up, Wipeout? So I'm working on some environments today. Let's see if I can find the character I was working on. Characters. So this is the guy I was working on all last week. You know, I could get back into him, but I want to get some environment work done because this is more important at the moment for us, game-wise. We got a few characters coming out pretty soon, and so that's less important to get. You know, we got a few characters ahead of this guy that are coming out relatively soon. So yeah, I want to just focus on some environment stuff today. Do a little bit change pace also, just to keep the stuff on the channel a little bit more mixed up and stuff, so you guys don't just see me doing characters every week. And we got a lot of other instructioners. We have a lot of other instructors who, you know, a lot of us are working on characters. So hopefully, just by mixing it up, there's more breadth of covered subjects here on the channel. While I'm here, I noticed that his stomach is a little off. This happened last week actually. I was like meant to get into characters and then, or meant to get into environment, and then like I saw this guy, started noticing issues, and I just started noodling away at him. Before I knew it, it's been 3 hours and my stream is over. But yeah, that's that guy. Yeah, can't open sculpts you don't intend to work on. It's so easy to get sucked in. So let me save that guy off, and I'll just get him out of my face. So I'm gonna attempt to get back to him. So yeah, I have this. There's this tunnel here as well, and in the back of the tunnel, I'd like to do like a big kind of sci-fi door. Turn on the low poly, be a little bit more snappy. I think I want to put like little TV screens on the inside here. On each sort of like wall would be a little TV screen. And one thing you'll notice is I have like walkway low, walkway high, glass low. That's like if you organize all of your meshes with proper naming convention, then a lot of these new bake tools today will automatically separate the meshes out for you, so you don't have to explode them and get, you know, it'll know which meshes you're trying to bake with, and I can bake the glass mesh alongside the outside mesh, and it won't have any issues because the baker will use that naming convention to match, you know, ray trace. So that's kind of a useful tip. I won't be doing any baking here today, but just something to keep in mind. If you organize that stuff ahead of time, it'll help you move a lot faster. Delete that pillar, delete this wall, because those are all in the loge wall here. So I'm kind of digging, this look is like the look I was kind of going for. It's obviously too tall, but I think it's matching this piece well, so I think I can shrink them down. Let me do a little bit of detailing there. I'd also like to get to some sketches here of things I'd like to do. So I like this kind of notion, something like this, where it's like it's kind of like an angled in wall. So I'll probably do something like that as well. Just gonna save this off in my little reference I have on my other screen here. Yeah, I kind of just want to go for like kind of a sci-fi look. You know, presumably the stadium would have like, you know, support structures and casing and things like that all over for, you know, various rigs and things that people would need. So just kind of want to just build out some of that sci-fi hard surface stuff and, you know, see where we get with it. And the trick's going to be keeping it not too detailed, like have it be visually interesting, but don't over detail it because it's not, you're never that close to the stadium. You know, you just want to have enough detail that, you know, it's worth having, but you know, it's not gonna be a waste of time. This is another thing you can get lost in detailing for just dig far too deep, which is another thing I'm guilty of. I think most artists are. Because you're trying to make the thing make sense, you know. Oh yeah, and finally, I think I want to work on if I can get this one in. Right failure, and it seemed to get in there okay. I have this like press box. It looks like its normals are reversed, but I can flip that. Yeah. So I have this press box, and that's like sort of a long, like a TV room basically, where there'll be like electronics and desks, and like the press would be in there because it's a stadium that we're building. So like, you know, something like that would just sort of abut one of the side walls, maybe both, but I'm thinking probably just one for the time being. So if I dress up the press box, put in some nice paneling and coverage on it, that might be good too. A little bit of both, Coriezer. What's up, Sapna Ramchad? How you doing? So yeah, you know, it's kind of both. You know, I think for these pillars, I'd probably throw an extra bevel on there, but then other than that, I'd probably just send it right over to the game. I don't think I need any more geo than that. And I've talked about this in my previous stream, and when I'm working for game resolution, what I try to do, and this is, you know, typically if I had, you know, enough time, if I had all the time in the world, then what I would do would be to, you know, only focus on the high poly, get the absolute best high poly I could, and then come back in and do the low poly, and just build the low poly around the high poly. What I try to do, for the sake of time, and the sake of, you know, our game is pretty, you know, it's not super high poly, it's not super high detail, your camera is very far away from all the action. Because all those things are true, I tend to keep it, I try to work so that my low poly and high poly are being generated at the same time. So like that's why you see like these creases are very important, because when I crease it, you know, you can see that like it rounds off that area. Like I've already got it kind of set up so that any modifications I do here will be preserved between the high poly and low poly, so that like I can just say like groups, you know, I can I'll UV by these groups, as well as so like group by normal is at like 35 will give me enough of a like break up there. I maybe do more, and group by normal is by like, let's say 45, 50. So now all those hard edges, which would not bake very well anyway, all those hard edges are their own poly group, which is useful because now I'll go to plugin UV master, unwrap by polygroups, and that'll give me UV islands for each one of these strips. And then when I have that, I can just subdivide away and bake that right out, and everything will bake perfectly. So like I try to just keep it so that I'm always doing, I'm trying to keep my low poly as non-destructive as possible, so that like as I'm making my high poly, I just kind of get it for free. And you know, I don't want to limit myself design wise. I want to avoid, you know, limiting myself, because that's also a problem. However, it's just super helpful to, you know, it's super helpful to just keep the low poly in mind while I'm doing the high poly, and vice versa. And then I just save myself a lot of time if I'm authoring things with the whole pipeline from Jump Street. I think the first thing I'm probably going to need to do though is just everything in this is sort of set to the old height, and I've clearly shrunk them down in the world. So yeah, all of those walls and stuff are much smaller in the world now. So let me delete that. It's done. I don't believe that floor is necessary. And these are all 1 meter grids units. This is like I just use this right here. Basically is just something for blocking out to the same scale as the world, but not super necessary right now. Like that angled one. Here's a curved one. So yeah, I've kind of built out a few of these in blockout stage. So I'll use these as kind of like the skeleton base for what I'm doing here. There's a ref. Here's the new. Okay, so here's the sizes as they should be. What's up, Ghost LSX? Saturday, what's going on, guys? When projecting the high poly normal map onto the low poly asset, I end up losing some of the detail shape of the initial model. Is that normal, or should it be possible to project all the high poly detail? Well, wipeout, that's going to depend on a great deal of many things. Even before you talk about like actual shape and making sure the projection can find your high poly detail, even before all that, you got to keep in mind that it matters if you have a hard edge versus a soft edge. That is, you know, smoothing groups. If you have average normals, i.e. one smoothing group, then when you have a hard 90-degree edge, when you're searching for geo, it's going to come in at 45-degree angles, and that may or may not represent the underlying geo properly. So it's a matter of knowing how and when to split your islands up. And as I was mentioning kind of before, if I split my islands up here like this, all my 90-degree edges, as in like that edge there, this edge here, all those 90-degree edges are going to be on their own UV island, and I'll keep them as hard edges in my baking package so that when I'm baking, it knows to like shoot a perpendicular ray to that edge. If I had this as one giant, for example, if I did not split these into their own hard edge smoothing groups, and it was just one, imagine this unwrapped and it was just flat. Like imagine this is unwrapped, just completely flat. If it wasn't split at the 90-degree edges, so to speak. When you're ray tracing to do your baking, your texturing, you're gonna miss the detail because it would come in at an angle, it wouldn't capture that edge there, and you'd start to get some artifacts. So it's hard to describe without walking through it all, but yeah, that's beyond the scope of this stream. But hopefully that's helpful. And if you Google like normal map, Google like normal baking smoothing groups, and you'll find a ton of stuff on just like why those workflows exist, why they exist the way they do, and ways to kind of, you know, make sure you get everything. But yeah, I mean, like basically no matter what your shape is, you basically should be able to kind of capture anything. And then Ghost, yeah, this is just basically, I'm working on some props for my stadium here. Let me see if I can, yeah, just basically working on some props for this stadium. You know, want to just build out some more walls and scaffolding and yeah, so that's what I'm working on here. So I want to build kind of like a few of these walls and kind of just keep that sort of, maintain that sci-fi, but not too overly detailed and techy sort of look. So let me pull this over here. So you can see my reference. It's mostly just floors. Well, I also like the idea of maybe doing it like a V, so it's like it goes out and stuff. So I'm gonna make a few different variants of this. I think I got some ideas here. Oh, you know what? Let me go grab a glass of water real fast. Gotta have water during this stream. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna go grab a quick drink, and I'll be back in a second. Once I find where my pause window is. Okay, I will be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so it's a good question actually. When you build props, do you mind the poly count or model away and deal with it later? Really good question. It's something that a lot of artists I've worked with can find themselves getting in hot water with, because it's always about the creative vision versus the practical use of the thing. So these are all things to keep in mind. One thing you really want to focus on is that the key determining factor is, you know, what I'll call like pixel resolution, meaning how many pixels on screen typically is it going to be drawn. Like if you have a prop and the prop itself is like a first-person shooter weapon and it could not be any closer to the camera, you know, you really want to go wild. And there's really, with current gen consoles, like almost no such thing as too much detail. Like I think no matter what artistic vision you were going for in current gen consoles, current gen hardware, so to speak, you have enough resolution there to sort of realize any concept you can come up with. That isn't to say you shouldn't be texturing and modeling efficiently. Of course, you always should, but you're not going to be limited by things that are that close to the camera. You really want to give them as much detail as you can. I mean, characters these days are over 120,000 polygons, and you know that's insane. Like, you know, usually you were crunching down to like, you know, 10 to 20,000 on an expensive character a couple generations ago. So the main thing you want to think about when you're doing props is you know, how close is it going to be to the camera? Therefore, how many pixels, how many resolution pixels are going to be drawn on the monitor, on the screen itself. That's kind of like your detail rule of thumb, because you know that's all that matters at the end of the day, because that's what that final look is going to be governed by that. So like that's your main focus. However, you know, you do have the luck to be able to you know, you kind of want to decide between texture versus model detail. You know, I guess the short answer is that all things are going to be based on a give and take. So like if you have a system, you know, not like a phone for example, say it's like the Nintendo Switch, you know, you have enough VRAM to kind of have decent sized textures. So on a model like that, let me show you an example here. Map, jammers, disk. Here's a good example. So for this one, right, the actual base disk is very, you know, pretty low res. Actually, it's a few thousand. This is a little bit more higher res than our typical ones. But where I really kind of I'm going to be spending time is the actual texture itself. So the texture is going to be like a 1K texture for a prop that's not that big. This is just this is a disc held in our player's hand. So I'm going to spend a lot of time for this model. The vert count's going to be pretty low, but my texture size is going to be pretty high. So I'm going to get a really good result on screen because I'm focusing so much on here we go. Here's another example. I'm focusing so much on the texture detail that is really cool grunge maps and scratches and like decals, and really making it pop in the texture, not in the model itself. So that give and take is because I know that one, this prop is going to be far away in game, but right up close in the character and customization menu. Like you're going to see the thing taking about half the screen when you're zoomed in on it. So the give and take there is I'm not going to make a crazy 80,000 vert model, because that model wouldn't make much sense since the primary use in game is going to be like, way below camera and far away. However, with a little bit of sophisticated texturing work, I can make this is a very simple model. But in game, it looks a little bit more. Let me see if I can find this thing. I think I have some screenshots of it. Videos. Here it is. But in game, it's more like this, and it looks a lot more high poly than it is, because I wanted to have that level of detail because it's going to have that much camera real estate. Like, it's going to be on camera at that resolution. So that's basically what I think your give and take is going to be. It's going to be like, when do I give it verts, when do I give it texture resolution, and how big is it going to be on screen, and when's it going to be on screen, kind of drives that answer to that question. So yeah, it's there's no silver bullet to this. There's just getting a good rule of thumb for what your needs are going to be. And I think what you'll really find is that just trial and error is what's going to get you there. You see a lot of sculptors, especially guys who work in film, they don't need to bake down. They don't need to worry about the texture pipeline as much. So they can model at full scale and just render it, or they can model it as big as a scale as they need to not get clunky in their scenes. And they have more sophisticated setups in film for like proxy models and animate this one, but just copy the animation to that more expensive rig, things like that. The answer is, like, you basically just want to always have an idea what your needs are, and the only way to get to that point is just trial and error. That's probably the best advice I could give. Okay, so I think the main thing I want to do is I want to shrink this down to the point where it's the same size as the ones I already approved in Engine. So these ones here are like the blockouts that I made in Engine. So those are already, I know for a fact those are the right size. So I'm just going to scale this down to when it matches that roughly. I think I want to combine these two though. What do I use for texturing? I use a number of things, straight up down to just I'll go into Photoshop and paint on my maps. But my primary texture package is Substance Painter. I've been using that since it first came out. It really kind of changed things for me. So that's my main go-to. But I kind of just try to investigate all pipelines. I'm just always on the hunt for pipelines. Because it just helps me. There's certain things I might be wanting to do that are a little bit faster here versus there, and with a little bit of time dedicated, you'll find that you start, you don't need to spend a week learning a program, that maybe like, a couple hours of trying to mirror someone else's pipeline and workflow, you can start, really adding to your tool chest there, and I find that's very important for me. I just 2 days ago now I saw that Quixel's on sale, so I picked up Quixel. I haven't really broke it open yet, but I'm excited to try that out because I have some things that I want to do that reportedly Quixel does better than Substance Painter. I don't know because again I haven't compared the two yet, but I got a Pinterest board with a ton of workflow methods for Quixel, just veterans, like people who've been using Quixel since the beginning. So I have a Pinterest board where I've saved off some of the stuff that looked really cool. The result was really nice, and they show every step how they do it. I'll save that off, and I'll go take a look at that. when I'm ramping up in Quixel, and then maybe I'll convert. But I think what's more likely it's going to happen is what's happened with ZBrush Mine and everything else for me. It's that I will find certain things that I prefer to do in that software package versus this software package, and that'll just be how I end up, adding to it. But Substance Painter is what I do majority of my texturing in right now. It's a bit hard for that silver bullet to work on augmented reality models. Yeah. You can get up to it really close, and it's a mobile thing. Yeah, so with VR, I've worked on some VR stuff myself, actually. Yeah, I've worked in those constraints, and yeah, you gotta get. What I would say in that case is same with mobile, is that you're kind of restricted by both. You want low vert counts, and you want low texture size. But I think you definitely got to spend your time in the textures there, and you got to spend your time, finding out cheats and finding out hacks, finding out ways to take, 256 and 512 textures and multiply them such that you can't see that graininess, but you can sort of, try and just combine materials as much as you can to be cheap on the pixel shader, as well as sort of detailed enough. Obviously there is no silver bullet there. It's just a constant balancing act. And I think you're going to be limited also by what the art is. What is the art for the scene you're trying to build? What can you get away with versus not? And just always keep an eye on performance first. It's a much harder problem to retrofit a solution to. If you're performance focused from the beginning, it's just going to help you, because authoring a bunch of stuff and then coming back through and authoring it cheaper is more time consuming than sort of setting your budgets early and finding out exactly where the ceiling is and knowing what I mean by that is start super cheap, super cheap. See what it does for you perf wise, and just by doing a quick performance capture, you'll see how much time am I spending on the vertex shader, how much time am I spending rendering out particles, or transparent textures are really expensive. Try to get away with not doing transparency, things like that. AR and VR, very expensive things. So getting those constraints to a point where it's just a balancing act, like everything else in games and generally software development. You just have your balancing act of just memory versus just the things you're crunching versus the thing you're storing, the things that are being kept around versus loaded in and out, all those kind of things, all those balancing acts. It's just such a trial and error thing. There is no silver bullet. Like I said, I think a good rule of thumb, a good thing to look at is what is the pixel size on screen of this thing. And with AR, if you can get right up close to the thing, I would just work with a lot of, I would work with as much beveling as possible. I would work with as few curved edges as I could. Try to make everything try to make things as much as possible, of course. A nice bevel versus a curve. People will forgive a lot because you don't really see the hard edges all that much. And we do a lot of that too, because like I said, these are so far away, and I like being able to break up. I'm gonna end up beveling all this stuff up, because I think we can definitely we can afford that geo. But just as in practice, like I said before with the UV islands, you can leave this thing as is, and then bake off those side pieces, and then you can keep that 90 degrees, and this is kind of too pointy and too sharp to be believable in real life, but you can really bake in a nice normal map just by having subdivide, delete lower, turn off smooth. Oops. But you can create a nice little high poly bevel out of that edge there and bake that down if they have their own UV island. I've had Quixel for a year, never used it. For Substance, but just recently started to learn it. Yeah, I found Substance to be just very natural for me. But yeah, I just want to learn both and see what I prefer. I actually do most of my like if I'm doing skin textures and stuff like that, I like to just paint them in ZBrush. I don't have a better brush like paint flow than just ZBrush. It's been the best way for me to just like let me find this guy. I just find it the most organic and natural way to paint. You know, it's like getting good pore detail and veins and stuff like that. It's just a lot easier and more organic. So what I'll do is I'll export this out as my poly paint, and that'll be my base texture. You know, it's just how it's how I'm able to get really realistic hands, the spotlight painter, and you know, all that detail there. You know, just it goes a lot better for me in ZBrush than it does in other texturing packages. So when I have like a procedural generated material, like, you know, procedural scratches based on the curve map, all that kind of stuff, you know, the substances are good for that, and Quixel has their own method for that. But as far as like you know, just painting and stuff like that, I prefer ZBrush. What's up, X-Fighter? Alright, thanks for stopping by. I hate yous. See you later. Oh, and there's Brain DX, the champ there, game engineer, wizard. Yeah, atlasing is another really important thing. Yeah, and atlasing is you can be clever about, the most performant thing you can do is build like these really sexy trim sheets, and similar, this technique here is really great. Sunset. Where's this thing? Ultimate trim, here it is. The guys at Sunset Overdrive, at Insomniac for Sunset Overdrive, had a, and this isn't a new method, but if you look at that talk, it's basically like they had a huge world to build, and they had to keep it relatively low poly, but they wanted to hit like as much texture variation as possible, and to go what Brain DX is saying there, you know, the technique you kind of use is atlasing, where you're just building regions of information, i.e. 45-degree angles, you know, 16 by 16 shapes, you know, 2 by 4s, and just like you build the things that would go into a world, like, you know, 2 meter by 2 meter pillars, and you know, angles, you know, from 45 to 90 to whatever. You build those bevel and you put all that in there. And then you just create the entire world by making your geo parts of these textures. So like you UV it such that, you know, they have one button click and they can, oh, this is a trim. Oh, it's a trim for a building? Okay. This can be one of 4 sizes, you know, 4 inches, 8 inches, 12 inches, say, right? So like then they build the entire, and this would work really well for an AR game, because like, you know, if you're doing this, you're limiting draw calls significantly. And that's really, and they get a really good result out of this. But yeah, so watch that talk. That's really helpful for getting that stuff down. And so, what song is this? Spear Labs. This is just the YouTube free audio playlist, because otherwise Twitch, if it's copyright, if I'm playing like a copyrighted song right now, Twitch will mute the audio. So we just play royalty-free music. So I just use this YouTube library. There's the playlist. Okay, let's get back to it here. Okay, with all that intro and game talk, I'm actually going to do a little work now. Split these back up. So one thing I like to do with the new this is like a kind of pseudo groups. I put everything that's like a blockout, everything that's like a reference thing, everything that I need for just like blockout referencing, things like that, I put below a Boolean group. And when it's below a Boolean group, I can just store them all in there, as well as like turn them all on and off together. If I'm on another one, I turn these on. So like so if I keep them all together in that group, they kind of act in such a way that I can disable them at the same time. So that's helpful. I think what I need to do is I'm going to take all of these down. My peg. Angle one. This is the floor. This doesn't need to be precise. This is to make a clean up layer. I just wanna. It depends. Reference versus head. I'm actually just working off. There's this. Where is it? So I did like basically what I did was I made that part right there, right, and then I just did a quick render. I have a project set up to do line art renders. Where's that thing though? Let me save this project 1 second here. There it is. So as you can see, I've got it set up to extract line art like that. So what I use this for, what's up Sapphire Soul, how you doing? So what I'll do a lot is I'll render out, if I have some idea in my head, I know it has to fill this shape. I know it has to be this size for the space that it's going to go in. I know roughly what it's going to be. I've sketched out some ideas on paper. I'll come into ZBrush and I'll build out the rough of what that looks like. Yeah, this is a little bit more detailed, obviously. Say it's something like this, right? So I'll build out a trunk like that. Then if I do the line art, I have a nice like 3D representation. Here's what it's going to look like. So I'll do some orthographic views. I'll build out, you know, the shape I need it to be, and then I'll do a quick line art render. And I'll take that into Photoshop just for like a 2-second paint over, right? So like that's what I did with this. I knew I wanted to try like an angled forward, you know. I knew kind of roughly the size that I needed to fill, right? So get that stuff on paper real fast, help me sort of conceptualize what I want to do with it, And then, then I can come into ZBrush and a recent project here now. Quick save. And then come in here and start finishing up. So yeah, it's kind of a combination of both. Then I also, of course, I'll grab. It's important to grab reference, especially if it's something if you're not done it a ton of times. It's something that you might not be familiar with. What's which program? This is ZBrush. What's up, Seagull Crush? How you doing? This program is ZBrush. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot of sculpting last few weeks, but I really do enjoy the hard surface tool set in ZBrush. I use it a lot. It just help. These are all things you can do in other packages, of course, but I just find I don't know any packages you can do it with a pen, with only 2 buttons really. Front click and right click. I got my keyboard here, of course, for all my hotkeys and stuff, but I just find it to be very fluid and really just works really well for me. Whoops, I shouldn't have. This is kind of tricky, actually. As you can tell, I messed up this geo pretty bad, so I just want to fix that. Tidy that up a little bit. Oh yeah, they just announced that. Yeah, we're really excited about adding TS. We got a lot of really good instructors, and what they try to do is they just try to get more people from different specialties and arenas, and yeah, it's really exciting to add TS. It's really awesome for the channel. Yeah, I'm glad they announced that. No, not at all. I'm glad I didn't realize they announced that yet. They told us, but I didn't know that they announced it to the public. It's awesome. Alright, so I fixed up that angle surface. Let me get right back to the angled pillars so I know what I'm looking at here. Angled wall. Can't decide where I like that edge better. I meant to split this actually, I forgot. Yeah, Seagull Crush. It's thisjamgame.com. It's a two-man team. My partner Jay and I. That's our game. What the heck did I just do? Anyway. What link is dead? You should be able to go to that, click that link, it seemed to work just fine. You guys hear me? So yeah, baking is kind of part of the texturing process. Like, it depends on what you mean by, like, do you have to? Like, if your shader in your engine is set up that you don't need like normal information, you don't need ambient occlusion and curvature information. If you're not like shading it that way, then you can just go right on to texturing with no baking whatsoever. It all depends on the shader and the look you're trying to achieve. So if you're doing Substance Painter, for example, you'll want to bake your normal, your curvature, your ambient occlusion, your position maps, because then you can use some of those what they call smart materials, which like they take an object's curvature and might apply more scratching, or they take an object's ambient occlusion, that is to say like where other parts of the geo are obscuring or occluding that pixel or vertice or that part of the texture, then it would put more grime and stuff in the ambient occluded parts. So yeah, it depends on what you're trying to go for. But like baking is basically a part of the texturing process. Like baking and texturing are almost the same thing pretty much, if you think of, not the same thing, but like they're the same step, I'll say. Okay. Yeah, I can't insert edge loops right now for some crazy reason. Is it working okay now? Insert each poly. Is there a way to set depth limits in keyshot depth map? Max black, max white. I'm getting whole white extra depth map export. PS. So this tears noise effect. You know, I don't use keyshot. I only played with it, so I'm not really sure. So out of a render, you're getting the depth map. So I assume you're sending a scene over to keyshot, and then you want to clamp the black and white ends, huh? Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I mean, without seeing the source, I can't really say. When you say you get a whole white EXR, what do you mean? Like it's too bright, it's too white, or? Well, what are you getting out of Photoshop if it's just white? I mean, like, you can't do anything in Photoshop if it's just white. Yeah, Saturn, not exactly. That's just like, I know how high he is. I know like how tall that dude's about 6'2". So it helps me kind of like, you know, I know that I want this thing to be kind of like shin height almost, like, just to get an idea of like scaling. Yeah, Ryan, that depends on a lot of things. Depends on, you know, technical artists are hard to find. Like riggers and technical artists are really hard to come by. You know, a lot of modelers are getting technical art abilities now, and so like, you know, their full range of skill might be a more fair assessment of their value when it comes time to, you know, work on that kind of stuff. So a lot of things to consider there. I wouldn't say anyone can do the job. I mean, I hire digital artists all the time, and you know, I think just like anything else, like finding someone who can do it is easy. Finding someone who can do it well is very, very hard. You know, it's something that, like any craft, which I obviously do believe it's a craft. You know, I think you just gotta keep in mind that, you know, the best in the business are gonna be, you know, gainfully employed. The one thing that's true about today, though, is that never before was there so much instructional material available, and that's something that's really exciting. Because people in general can get good because the tools are out there to teach them. that wasn't always the case. I mean, it used to be a tougher barrier for entry just based on the fact that how the hell do I learn how to do this at a professional level? Now it's like every single professional out there is sharing their methods all over the internet, and that's just such a wonderful thing for inspiring people and for, you know, training people. It's just really helps. I'll tell you right now, salaries are not even close to minimum wage for really good artists. I mean, even bad artists are making well above minimum wage. That isn't to say that I'm sure there are art jobs that are minimum wage out there. I'm sure that exists at some companies. I'm sure people are paying, like, you know, really, really bottom dollar for artists. It's, I mean, like, of course, but, you know, on the average, it's not even close. I mean, quality artist is nowhere near minimum wage at any funded studio. I mean, it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum like anything else. I mean, working in fast food and working at, the nicest steakhouse in town, you're still serving food. One pays minimum wage, one doesn't. That's probably true for, small game studios with no budgets, or, freelance artists, or, the price you fetch as a freelance artist is going to be relative to your abilities. If your abilities are that of a high-priced artist, you'll get paid a high price. If your abilities are that of a low-price artist, then you'll get paid a small price. The work itself will dictate the value in the job market. Okay, I think it's a solid base. I think the rest I'll end up doing in texturing. Yeah, I mean, I get it. There's small companies, of course, but what makes an artist a high-skill artist? Yeah, startup companies obviously have smaller budgets than big studios, but there are also startups that get funded, and those startups have millions of dollars to spend on art. It's all about, there's a spectrum there. I wouldn't call art and video games and music, I wouldn't call those low-paying jobs. I will call them jobs that people have a lot of passion for. So habitually, people working in passion industries take less money because they're just happy to be there, and that's a mistake. Competitive, pricing yourself reasonably is irrelevant of how much you want to do the job you're doing. What makes an artist a high school artist? For me, it's 100% about the amount of time I have to spend managing them, or ideally not managing them. If they execute on the concept, they're without constant rework and constant, if I have to say something twice, that's already a big strike in my book. If I give you direct feedback and it's in an email or you can refer back to it, and you have no reason to not deliver, communication is a very big part of it. But if your portfolio and your resume say you can do a thing, and then I find out you can't do that thing, it's a big strike, and then you're gonna have to prove to me that you're a contributing member before it's just too late. It's what makes a good artist for me is obviously the quality of the work, but the quality of work in a timely fashion, the quality of work within a functional dialogue about, there's always going to be feedback, there's always going to be review. A good artist is able to execute in a way that's good for the team, good for the production. Being on the same page as the production is something that's surprisingly difficult for a lot of artists. So that's something to think about. Yeah, exactly. And if you were taking a job just for the money, passion industries aren't usually where people end up, of course. Wondering if I want anything over the top of this thing. You can feel free just to hit me up on. You can hit me up on Twitter. You can hit me up on. Let's see. What's my? Throw my Twitter on here. I don't really have a portfolio actually. You know, everything we do, it just goes right into the game. I'm not. I was. We're just a two-man company, and before that, I was working for Activision in the engineering department. So I don't have like a big artistic portfolio. I have mostly. Well, you know what? Here's my ZBrush. I think I threw some stuff on ZBrush Live. ZBrush Central. My ZBrush Live page has some stuff on it. Oh look, we're on the cover of this thing right now. I didn't know that ZBrush. This is a cool website. They added a bunch of stuff here. Let's see if we get a little skeleton effect here, or infinite mirror effect. Something in here somewhere. There we go. Yeah, so I got some stuff right there on the ZBrush Live page. That's a concept from our game. That's in the that's currently in our game. And you'll see like there's like it's a little bit more game resolution because it's usually pretty far from the camera. So and there's a organic model. There's also kind of some of the stuff I've been working on. You'll see some environment stuff, you see some character stuff. Yeah, so feel free to check all that stuff out. And I tend to talk more, as you can see by today's stream. I do a lot of discussion of the sort of the gameplay pipeline stuff. Sometimes get detracted from the actual sculpting because I get too lost in the pipeline talk. But yeah, the game is the portfolio. Saturn is absolutely right. Like anything that I'm working on goes right into the game. And so yeah, I think I almost want to do like a I appreciate that, Sarah. Thanks a lot. I haven't been doing the instructional stuff very much. So if ever you guys want me to change it out, I try to read all feedback, and I'm always just trying to get better at doing stuff. So. Yeah, I like these a lot. These are great. Watercolors. Got a very good sense of your perspective is great. Yeah, these are awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, like, you've got the hard part down, which is making all that stuff, you know, read cleanly. Yeah. Awesome work. I want to break this up more. It'll look too symmetrical in the maps. I want to kind of... get into some doors. Here's the tunnel. I need a door for the inner end of it. So, let's see if I have a wall anywhere. Looks like I don't have that back wall. That's fine. ZBrush pipeline, how to get to the point of game character creation. You know, I'm trying to think of like the best like high level breakdown for a character. Here's a good one. This workshop here was one of the most helpful and informative for me. It's not super old, but it's a few years old now. It's 2013, about 5 years, 4 or 5 years. It goes through all the theory. It goes through all the reasons why. It goes through like, you know, so it starts with just a base mesh. Builds that into a very this first one's free, by the way, so you could watch this one and you know, get the idea of like what they're doing for like getting the sculpt ready. And this goes through everything from low poly, retoupe, and all that. It's just the whole pipeline, because the thing is, you're asking me, how do I get to use ZBrush for character production? Well, the short answer is there's a million implications there. So, you know, what your specific needs are. This is a very, very good pipeline tutorial for games. Instructor's really, really good. Art's obviously really high quality as well. You know, if you just want to learn how do I sculpt characters, then, you know, there's I would recommend Mike Pavlovich. His channel is very helpful. His channel is really, really deep. Just has so much different stuff. Like, he's doing clearly the stylized rendering stuff there, which is cool. But he covers it all. Like, if you look at his playlists, Marvelous Designer, you know, character modeling, boot modeling. If you want to, like, how do I sculpt well for characters, like, this guy is really got a, I mean, like, his channel is just so loaded with stuff. So, if you want the whole pipeline thing, I would check out that tutorial I just shared, because that's a really helpful one too. What's up, Hoy? How you doing? Here's what I'll do. I'll delete all these. You bridge this. That to this. There we go. Dark and Grim, how you doing? Welcome. Link to that tutorial. Sure, one sec. Yeah, one thing I like to do when I first began is I would like watch tutorials and just try to mimic it side by side. So I would sit there and do the tutorial along with, and just try to see if I could match what they were doing. Straighten out these verts real quick. Come on. mesh over there. Mesh cleanup. Pay some more percents. Well, it's just not gonna work, is it? That's gonna be the base for our door. And we'll just chop away at it. See if we can't find something we like. It would actually also help to bring in this reference mesh so I just know it's a reasonable size of a person. Those ledges already feel a little bit too tall, like it wouldn't be shin height, they're supposed to be like ankle height really. So yeah, probably have some editing to do on that path anyway. Is that the arena, Tim? Yeah. Where is it? It's actually not. It's kind of just like a dumping ground for a bunch of props I'm working on. Um, but yeah, this is stuff that's gonna be going in the arena. Give me one sec, guys. Sorry, guys. I'll probably want to break up that walkway even, just do some modular pieces. Or at least UV it that way. Am I planning to use this tunnel piece on other maps? Maybe. I'd like this tunnel piece to be like a sequence so that, you know, before matches or during even like for character presentation stuff. Like I'd like to there just be like a nice door, some TVs around here, some like, you know, ropes and shit for maybe like press and stuff like that. And then like the characters would just be coming out of here to like cameras flashing and things like that, and then, you know, the roar of the crowd outside of there. So I think that, like, you know, while this is for a given map right now, you know, it could be used on other maps as sort of like a map agnostic thing. I want to put some kind of backing there. I'm just not sure what kind of backing I want to be there. Try something. It's always kind of a tricky design choice when you're marrying curvature with hard edge like that. Can be successful when it works out though. It can be really nice. Uh-oh, might get a crash here. Gotta restart here. Looks like we're out of time already. Got kind of lost chatting with you guys. So yeah, just did some blockouts today. Really just trying to do some concepting and find shapes that are balanced and work well for the environment. I think I'm gonna do a little bit more work on that portal on the top of the tunnel there, and then I'll probably do a few more of these in the bottom here next week, where I just want to kind of have a few modular kits that I can stack around the environment and make them look different, and really bring it to life with sort of light textures and emissive glows and things like that. But yeah, we'll be doing more of this kind of stuff. So let me know if you'd like to see environment stuff, character stuff. I think working with the hard surface and blocking out is pretty good, because then we can start showing it in game and stuff. We'll show like getting it textured and exported and how all that stuff works. Alright, anyway, thanks for stopping by, guys. I will see you next week.